Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's CSS animation coding tutorial, we will learn how to create custom checkbox designs and how to use SVGs to achieve this animated tick effect. So let's get started. I have my project open in VS Code and it contains an HTML, CSS and JavaScript file. The HTML file has some basic markup added and includes links to the style sheet and the JavaScript file, which are currently still empty. To begin, let's add the necessary HTML. I will first add form text to the body. Inside, I am nesting a label with the for attribute checkbox. Right after the opening label tag, I am adding some text, which in this case is to-do item. After this text, I am adding an input with the ID and the type checkbox. The for attribute of the label refers to the ID attribute of this input element. Next to the input, I am adding a span element. Inside this span element, I will nest the checkbox SVG we have seen. The SVG I am going to copy from Hero Icons, which I will link below. Simply go to their website, search for tick, and copy-paste the SVG code into the index.html file. I am quickly going to remove the class attribute as these relate to Tailwind CSS, which we are not going to use in this tutorial. But if you are interested in learning how to use the Tailwind CSS framework, then click the info card that should appear in the top right corner now. This is all the HTML we need. If I start the live server, you can see what the page looks right now. It is quite messy, but we will fix this with CSS. In the CSS file, I am first pasting some basic style rules. At the top, I am importing the font outfit at the weight of 100. In the root, I am saving two colors, a green and a dark blue one, and I am also saving the font's name. Next, I am styling the body. The font size should be pretty large with 5 rem. I am using display, flex with justify content center and align item center to place the form in the middle of the screen. Then I am also ensuring the body is as high as the complete view height of the browser window. Finally, I am making the color of the text that of the dark color we saved in the root, and I'm assigning the outfit font to the text. Let's start styling our input item. First, I am adding position relative to the label element. This is the parent of all the other elements such as the input, SVG, and span. I want to position these child elements relative to the label, hence I am defining the position as relative. Below the label, I am then selecting the input, span, and SVG. Each should get the position property absolute assigned. I want them to be 0 pixels away from the left edge of the label. However, they should be vertically centered, for which I can use top 50%, which will move the content 50% away from the top edge. With transform translate y minus 50%, I can then achieve that all of these elements are placed right in the center vertically. If we have a look at the project now, you can see that the checkbox is centered. The span and the SVG are currently invisible, but we will take care of them in a bit. The input I am going to set to have an opacity of 0, so it is not visible on the screen. The span should get a border of 1 pixel solid light gray. The width and height should be 4 rem. You can change these properties to your liking. You could, for example, give the border a slight border radius, a different color, or size. Now the span and the check mark are visible again, but it overlaps with the text. To solve this, I am going to move the label text a bit to the right by giving it the padding left property of 7 rems. Next, let's style the SVG. The color should be green, which I can set with stroke and assigning the green color. The width and height should be 7 rem. I am also changing its position by giving it a negative margin. Again, you can change these values to suit your own style and preference. For now, I am also giving the SVG an opacity of 0. This we will change later when we animate it. Scrolling back up, I am using the input:checked selector to select all the input fields that are checked. I actually want to get the span sibling that is placed right after, which I can do by using the plus sign. When the input box is checked, I want the border of the span to turn a darker color. To make the color change smoothly, I am going to use a transition on the border with 0.5 seconds and linear. Next, I also want to style the SVG inside the span when the input is checked. For this, I can again use the input checked plus span selector and add SVG on. In this case, the opacity should be 1, and again, there should be a transition of 0.5 seconds. If we now look at the project, you can see that on click, the SVG fades in. Let's work on the CSS animation next. We will achieve the animation by drawing the SVG's path. To get the path length, we need to add 2 lines of JavaScript code to our script.js file. First, select the path. I am saving the path element of the SVG into a variable called path by using document.querySelector and then passing SVG and path inside. Then I am simply console logging path.getTotalLength. If we open the console, it prints the number 19.79 and so on. To make things easier, I will just round this number up to 20. Back in our CSS file, let's remove opacity 0 from the SVG. Instead, we are going to use a property called stroke-array, which defines how long the dashes are that are used to draw the SVG. For example, if I set a number which is smaller than the total length, such as 3, you can see that the SVG path is drawn with several dashes. The larger this number, the larger the dash. If I set it to 20, it will be as long as the SVG itself, and hence there will be no gaps in the line. The next property we need is stroke-offset. This determines how much the beginning of the stroke is moved away from the start. If we set 4 here, you can see that the top part is missing. If I increase this number to 12, even more of the path is not drawn. Set it to 20, and none of the path will be visible, which is exactly what we want. We can animate the stroke-offset property in order to achieve the effect I showed you at the very beginning of this video. To define the CSS SVG animation, add the @keyframes keyword and the name of the animation. I will use tick. At 0%, the stroke-offset should be 20%. At 100%, we want the complete tick to be visible, so we can set stroke-offset to 0. The last thing we need to do is to assign the animation to the SVG. Under input checked plus span SVG, remove the opacity and the transition. Instead, you can add animation name tick, animation duration 0.5 seconds, and stroke-offset 0, so it remains visible after the animation ends. Now, if you tick the checkbox, you can see the tick animate in. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please subscribe for more web development videos. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I will try to answer. Thanks for watching and see you next time.